welcome to 90 Day Soulmate with Lizette
and Jim.
Today we're talking about a phenomenon called the Emperor Syndrome. There's lots of studies on this. There's lots of evidence, some research on it, but let's go back to one of the prevailing theories about this. And this goes back to the children in China growing up, a lot of them growing up with one child per household. What does that do on that child, having all the family focus on one child? The child can sometimes become the dominant force in the home because there's so much importance on that child. We were talking about, what is that, demand for resources, that when a family, when parents have, say, two children, if one of them gets a little moody and wants to be by themselves, they may hear their sibling playing with the parents or having fun, and then they may feel like, oh, I want to be part of that. And they may then try to change their behavior in order to be included in playtime activities.
Yeah.
The opposite is when there is no person, no other sibling competing for the attention of the parents, then that one child can have all the power in the household. In fact, the power of the parents become supplanted, becomes is removed, and the child then can become the dominant force in dysfunctional families.
Syndrome.
Well, you can have you can have the Emperor Syndrome. You can have dysfunctional families, or you can have families that have, and we talked about this as well. What family doesn't have a certain amount of dysfunction?
Yeah, everybody have a little bit, and make a people resilient to go through these kind of stuff. Well, if the people have the skill,
you can. I guess the difference between dysfunction is a system of operation of the family that is incorrect over a long period of time. Whereas challenges are situations that happen, they come and they go, that the family together gets through, which is different. That builds the resiliency of the family. So when the child learns and the parent learns, or the parents learn how to deal with difficulties in changing situations, those would be challenges that build the resiliency of the family. But when there is a system of operation in place that changes the power dynamic in the family, and the child becomes the dominator through coercion and manipulation in order to get what they want, that is the Emperor Syndrome.
Okay.
So we talk about that. Is that unique situation in China of, one child per household over a certain amount of time, which led to a change in the dynamics of the family. Mm-hmm. How is that different, say, in the United States? And we talk about the United States because we exist within the framework of the United States, or the system of the United States, and we see what goes on here. And although there may not be as many households with one child, there still are. And there's still other dysfunctions in the family unit. Perhaps it's potentially one-parent household, or the parents work a lot of hours, and so they remove or exchange time that they would otherwise spend with the child for money. Not money, but gifts, or other ways of trying to make up for that lack of interaction.
Yeah, so sometimes some parents be present, but not 100% present. You have the parent maybe next to you, but the parent is in the phone or in the computer for 10 hours and not pay attention. So you can have the figure in home, but not really connecting.
So what's interesting is you just brought up something. In today's society, parents have the distractions. Well, we have work, but they have the distraction of social media.
Yeah.
Now the child's competing with the cell phone. They're competing with the online activities. They're competing with hundreds of thousands of instant access TV shows that the parents may be interested in watching, or the parent may be interested in watching. So there's a lot of changes in
the society is so different now. Yeah.
The dynamics of the family, of society, of interaction, technology-based, society-based, economic-based. I mean, just think about the couple of years of COVID where everyone's home. That had a certain level of stress. That had a certain level of children experiencing something that they didn't otherwise have. Maybe they had so much parental interaction, but no normal child interaction. Like they didn't interact with other kids.
Yeah.
And those cause different things. But today we're focusing on the emperor syndrome, the emperor syndrome, where there are 6 things, and I want to go to what those 6 things are. 6 things that children learn on how to manipulate parents. And if I can get to the right page of our document, I'll see if we can find them here. So let's see where they are. Here we go. There are 6 what we call typologies of the manipulative children and what they do. And here they are. Number 1, the sympathetic manipulator. The sympathetic manipulator uses charm to disarm and deceive. So the child is so cute and they use their charm, and that charm is used to get what they want from their parents.
And they start to see work and then say, okay, I can keep going use because my parent life enjoy, kiss me. So,
and they learn these behaviors as children, that the charm, they could manipulate their parent or parents, and they then use that same influence on friends, on teachers, on society.
And they work.
And if it works, they continue doing it.
Yes.
How about next? The seductive manipulator gains control through emotional intimacy. So that may be the child who loves to cuddle, who loves to, just embrace. When you come home, give the hug, and they're really showing a lot of love. But then one day you come home and they're not acting that way because they want to get something. And what happened? They're not loving me today. Why aren't they loving me today? Why aren't they being close to me? Why am I not now, again, the child can manipulate withholding that intimacy.
He maybe go and escape in his room, open the door and be
I'm staying in here. What's going on? And then the parent,
more attention,
gets the attention of the parents and can utilize that to get something they want. So that's the seductive manipulator. And that is another behavior that can carry on as the child grows up into adulthood, and they can continue to use that manipulation technique. Number 3, the altruistic manipulator. This is a child who will do everything for their parents. They'll take out the garbage, they'll walk the dog, they'll clean their room, they'll clean their house, they'll vacuum, they'll do all these things. But they also want their parents to say, oh, you did a great job. That's so fantastic. Thank you so much. And they'll use that behavior to gain favor with the parent because they know they'll get something in response. Now, altruism itself is supposed to be doing a good deed without the expectation of a reward. However, in this situation, this is a manipulation technique. So although it appears to be a good deed that's going on without, the child's being so wonderful. The child knows they're going to get a reward. They're going to get candy. They're going to get a new game. They're going to get something from doing this behavior. So they do all this behavior in order to seek a reward later. And again, this is the type of behavior that once learned can be used as that child grows up into adulthood for other types of manipulation. How about number 4? Number 4 is the cultured manipulator. This is where the child who the parents say, oh, you're so smart, you know so much, and the child starts to speak on subjects and learn subjects that are just so in depth that they are perceived as being intellectually superior. And the parents are going, I can't believe how smart Joey is. I can't believe how Sharon knows everything. And they put the child on the pedestal, and the child can use their eloquence, their ability to know something, and they use that to manipulate. So in this case, they belittle or control. Maybe they then know so much about something their parent doesn't know that they start making fun of their parent. Like they start talking about all the different types of turtles. And the parent's like, wow, I didn't know that turtles were like that. And like, what do you mean? You're the adult and you don't know that turtles do this? And the child sees how the parent may get defensive and react, and they think, oh, I can control my parent. I can make the parent feel like the child. And again, all this stuff, the emperor syndrome, is where the child starts to act like the parent, and the parent starts to be subservient to the child. They start to do whatever the child is asking them to do, or manipulating them.
I see something interesting in the concept for manipulation, because I guess the key is the word manipulation looks like the evil prepared to have the intention.
Okay.
But I guess for child is the technique, is the tool the kid have and testing to achieve what they want. Okay, versus they go completely to the evil manipulation that they learn, and they say, okay, that is working, and then keep on using and become like the habit.
Ah. So is that in a functional family, they may have these same situations occur where they're using all of these manipulations to get their way, but it's learned in a healthy way where it's appropriate and not becoming a dysfunctional trait that they then keep for the rest of their lives.
Exactly.
They learn that, sometimes it's inappropriate because maybe the parent is able to correct, or through their own observation they realize, hey, yes, I can get this way, but I know this is wrong. So part of this is the child growing up, with
because the number 3, when you mentioned the help in the house, they take care of the dog, that is a good practice, and also the parents have to appreciate the effort they do, but it's not like that you have to do a trophy for that, because it's everybody collaborates. So it's say everybody has some rule in the home, and everybody collaborate. I don't have a trophy every time they make a dinner every day, because we need to have food for eating. So I know when I expect that somebody say, oh, you did the dinner today. No, every night I do the dinner, you clean the dishes, you take out the garbage. So it's working in team. So we also talking about working in team.
Working together, right.
And then the child, and become we review, they become adult. Maybe it's difficult to working in team because all information is in the center of the person. So it's difficult to be part of the team. It's difficult to be the lead of the team.
Yeah, and as you said, as we talked about, is that this is one of the challenges that some children have as they grow up, is that they don't fit in on the team. They don't want to be part of the team. Or when they're on the team and they feel like they're not getting their way, they have a antisocial reaction. They don't have a what we would call an average behavioral normal reaction.
Or be flexible to agree other opinion, be flexible to follow the rule in the team based upon it's not go by your way, because I feel this lack of flexibility that these kids have when you say, okay, now you need to dance in this rhythm, I know I don't like to dance.
I do how I want. Well, I have a whole story about that, which we'll get to. I guess we can do it right now. Is that in a past life, there was a child I was co-parenting, who wanted to vacuum how they wanted to vacuum. So they would just take the vacuum and run in all directions in the living room and just vacuum over here, then vacuum over there, and vacuum over here. And I said to the young person, I said, when we vacuum, this is an easy way to vacuum to understand what we have vacuumed. And I showed how you vacuum a little bit of a column, you come back, and the next, and the next, and you do them side by side. And you see the carpet start to get a pattern and start to match up. And then you can vacuum the whole carpet this way. And I gave the vacuum back to the child, and the child said, no, I want to do it the way I want to do it. I said, but you don't know if you've vacuumed everything. And they're like, well, I want to do it my way. And the argument ensued with the other co-parent involved that, well, at least he's vacuuming. And to me, I was like, but if you're vacuuming, you want to do it a good way, a correct way, a way where you understand you actually vacuumed all of the carpet, not just ran randomly around the room. And so part of that's on me, and part of that's on the inability sometimes for you to be able to correct someone. So when we talk about a dysfunctional family, sometimes it's the two parents who aren't able to agree on the co-parenting technique, and then the child utilizes the manipulation technique by manipulating one parent against the other to get what they want. And if they can get the two parents to disagree with each other, they get their way.
Oh, and then the parents separate.
The parents separate.
and then they win.
maybe not. But let's continue on with, how about the shy manipulator? The shy manipulator uses their shyness to get what they want from their parent. They operate through passive-aggressive behavior or rumor spreading. Now, we can talk about how that develops into adulthood, but that would be a child who doesn't want to come out and, say, argue with a parent when they feel upset about something, or say, hey, I want to get something my way. Instead, they may just be quiet, go to their room, and maybe they'll tell the other parent a little bit of a lie about what the other parent did, you know, in order for them to sow the seed of, again, of starting an argument in order for them to get their way. So they'll go to the friendly parent, whoever that is in this situation, and share something with them to try to get their way with the other. Now, how does that work? Like, say, I tell a child no, and they said, well, mom already said yes. Or they'll say something like, hey, if I can get mom to say yes about this, would you be okay with this? Or, mom already said yes about this. She said if it's okay with you. And then the same child goes to the mom and says, dad says it's okay with them if it's okay with you. And basically, they're not actually getting the permission of each, but they're getting the permission based upon the other person understanding that the other already gave their permission, which is some kind of manipulation. It's really strategic.
And also for kids and for parents. I see parents that don't want to deal with the no.
Yeah.
So I say, talking with your mama or talking with your dad, and they take a decision. So no, let me talk the three party and verify an open conversation is what is good or not to take a decision. But I have this in my when I grew up. So sometimes my dad don't want to say no and say, oh, talk with your mama and see what did she say. And if you have to go there and your mama say no, and then you go in the middle and say, what?
Oh my God.
I leave and not leave, and then I say it's no. Yeah.
Well, and I can understand sometimes children might want to go with the softer parent on whatever the situation is first to try to get that soft yes, so then they can have that other that parent help them convince the other parent.
Yeah.
So some of this is learning, right? It's learning on how to work with others.
The dynamic of the home.
Right,
yeah.
but then it can grow and continue as they grow and they meet people in school and then later on in life in work. Maybe they understand that they may not want to present something in a big group, but if they can get buy-in from individuals before they meet in the group, then they can have maybe a go-ahead from the group, rather than if they present it in the group to begin with, the group may be looking at each other for what should our answer be, whereas if everyone had already talked about it, there can be positive supporters in the group. So some of these behaviors teach us how to be better team members, how to work better with others in the future, but some can also be, if they go too far, they can become bad manipulation techniques.
Yeah.
How about finally the dictatorial manipulator, one who uses anger and
I wanna do my way.
Do it my way, and if you don't do it their way, they yell and they scream and they pound their fists and they bang the door and they slam.
Call 911 to the police comment to punish the parent.
The dictatorial. They're the most dangerous. They resort to violence to maintain their power and their dominance in the household. So as a child, it's hard to resort to power, but what you can do is you can have a tantrum, right? You can have a tantrum, you can slam your door, you can go in, and now again, if you're the only child and the parent's like, I don't want to lose the child, like I want them to be my friend. Oh, which is a tough one, right? Is your child your friend, or are you their parent?
That's another show.
It's another show we talked about. Yeah. But that's one as well, which, how do you respond when your child starts to have a tantrum?
Yeah.
That can teach the child how they will behave in the future. And if having a tantrum works, and then if they have a tantrum in a restaurant, and that works, and they have a tantrum when they're going to their first day of school, and that works, and they learn that they can control the response from their parents by having these tantrums, and they learn from their initial friends, their small group of friends, that they're the only ones who act violent and angry, and their friends go, okay, Bobby, okay, little Jimmy, we're going to do what you want to do because we don't want you to be upset. They then know that they can act this way. The worst part about a lot of these is when the person, the child, has no empathy. So say they're a strict psychopath where they don't have empathy, and they realize that they can act this way. They really don't care about the feelings of the others. They just care about the results of their manipulation. Yeah. Then they can act this way, because when they act angry, when they act sad, when they act shy, when they do these things, they know they're just manipulating, but they have no feeling about it, and they really don't care how the other person feels, just that they get their way. So all of these, quote, techniques or bad behaviors become even worse when the person is a psychopath and potentially exhibits narcissistic traits.
Yeah.
Wow. When we come back, we're going to talk more about the Emperor Syndrome and what happens in adulthood when we come back. Victoria experiences the past, present, and future while sleeping. Will she be able to decipher the mystery of the symbols, messages, and images of her dreams before it is too late? Discover the lives she lives while Victoria dreams. Welcome back to 90 Day Soulmate with Lizette
and Jim.
Today we're talking about the Emperor Syndrome, dysfunction in children that leads them to be the dominating power and influence in the family at a young age, which then can lead to maladaptive behaviors continuing on, or patterns of behavior continuing on into adulthood. So I want to talk about some key findings, and this is from some studies of where this comes from typically. It's lack of clearly defined rules in the household. That's number one. The emotional absence of one or both of the parents, especially the father. Overcompensation and overprotection by the mother. So then that gives more power to the child. Guilt-driven parenting, where there's an exchange of money or gifts or permission, exchange of permission for time, because they feel guilty. Lack of time. Well, there you go. Lack of time and emotional investment makes the parent then give in to the will of the child more often. So, and that we just talked about this, material substitution for affection. I don't know how to give the affection because I'm not there present. I'm not there physically. So I give them a game and they go in their room and they play a game for 6 hours.
Yeah.
And I feel that is, substituting for the time. And not only that, now the child sees that they're getting something materially when they feel sad. So if they act sad, if they act emotional, they get something. They get a reward. And so they're getting reward for having a behavioral response to an actual real situation, which is maybe the parent being absent, not giving affection and not having time. But when they act a certain way, they get a material reward. So they can use that. They can use the guilt that they know their parent feels and get material reward. And also a growing reluctance of imposing discipline on the child by the parent because they feel guilty about not being able to spend the appropriate amount of time with the child. So those are a number of the reasons that we have a prevalence of the emperor syndrome, even in not single parent families or single child families. And a lot of this also stemmed, as we talked about, stemmed from single child families where the child is the center of the attention and there is no demand or competition for parents' attention. So I think we talked a little bit about if there's 2, 3, 4 children and they're all competing for the parents' attention, then they're trying to get the attention in a way that may be more healthy, because they have to work with their brothers and sisters in, one, not acting up badly unless the parents react in a bad way. Meaning, you fight with your brother and the one who's the aggressor gets the attention of the parents rather than the one who's been hurt. In that either case, that can be bad. The one who gets hurt gets all the attention, so now the kids see that and they're like, I want to be the one who's hurt. So they start acting like, oh, Joey just hit me. Or if the aggressor gets all the attention, then I have to start becoming the aggressor because I want to get the attention and time of my parents. Even if it's a bad connection with my parents, I want to have the time with them.
Yeah.
Oh, this is tough. What about narcissism? So we talked a little bit about this, but narcissism is and can be a result of the emperor syndrome.
Interesting.
Right? That it's about me. It's about how I feel about myself. It's about what I can get by manipulating others and how they say I'm so great and so good. And there's so many things that play into narcissism. But I wanted to look at, has that changed? As a society, are we more narcissistic now than we were before? So there's a study that involves something like 16,000 people over time, and they compared 2006 to, I believe it was 1979. There we go. It was from 1979 to 2006, involved 16,000 people. The people today who are at the 50% level of narcissism, meaning if you have a scale of 0 to 100, the people who fall in the middle of today's scale were at the 65% level in 1976, meaning they were 30% higher rated in narcissism, or today the average is 30% higher rated in narcissism than they were in 1979. Now, I need to rephrase what I just said. I said today. It's not today. 2006, our society had already become more narcissist than in
the past.
1979. That's almost 20 years ago.
Wow.
Do you think we're more narcissistic today than ever before?
We have more factors right now than 20 years ago.
So let's go into one of those factors. Let's talk about TikTok, social media, YouTube, things like this. Where we're on TV. We're on TV. We're on what is this called? YouTube.
YouTube.
LA Talk Radio.
Yeah.
Somewhere out there in the media
Facebook.
land. What's that other one called? Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So if I can find it here. There we go. So TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram rewards people with self-promoting content. That if you have really good self-promoting content and people go, yeah, that's really good, and I feel good about it, right? Like. The more narcissistic rewarded behavior I have, the better we do.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's out there posting stuff on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat and whatever other different social media may or may not exist. Because tomorrow it can all change in a flash.
Yeah.
People out there doing selfies and self-promoting behaviors, the more crazy they are, the more views and likes they get, create more people who are looking to, what is that called, self-aggrandizing behavior. They're looking at being, making a scene, and they're looking at getting likes. And so the more narcissistic, the more I seek outside approval of me, and I force people, like I won't, if anyone wants to put a thumbs down, I'm not going to let them do that, but only thumbs up, because I want only positive reactions and positive feedback. We are creating from a young age people who are seeking attention, right, for their own self-worth. And they're willing to get angry at other people on these social media platforms, right? Because that's part of it, is I'm going to write bad, I'm going to have arguments back and forth, I'm going to be posting stuff, I'm going to troll, and I'm going to do that stuff. So I start losing empathy. So I have little empathy, and I'm looking for people to say, you're right. You're fantastic. You're so smart. Oh, you look so good. I love your bald head. I love when I get thumbs up for bald heads. You know, so those things are one of the things that today promotes narcissism.
Yeah, and also when you mentioned the like to argue, so the how many hours I see people go back and forth and respond somebody, they say something and the other answer, and they just, I guess, waste your time, your life, and your emotion with somebody that you don't know, by the way. So, and then they create this feeling because I have to be right. I have to be agreeable for people, demonstrate everybody how smart I am.
That's true too. And and the other thing is this. This was an interesting one. With algorithms on our social media platforms, they feed us more of the information that we are interested in. So our brains already work by filtering out things we understand and know. So we only really see and recognize things around us that we already understand. Things we don't understand, our brain filters out. And now, yes, of course, you're going to see a little bit, but you're really focusing on the things you understand, agree with, and are really interested in.
Or you have experience. I hear a one sign guy say, figure out, you say in 2018, believe that everybody be like cow because we have a pandemic. How percent the people say, oh, come on.
Yeah.
That is not true. Now you say the same, and most people believe you because you have the experience for this. So that is also how the brain works. So filter.
Oh my,
so in the beginning, because I never have this experience, I don't want to believe that some pandemic can come in. No, it's ridiculous. After they happen, you say, oh, I can't believe
There's going to be a lockdown. You're not going to be allowed out of your house. Everyone's going to be forced to go to a government facility and get a shot.
Need to use
another shot. You need to wear a mask.
Yeah, so all this is, you mentioned before, you say,
oh, you're crazy.
You're crazy.
No, I can't. I don't even imagine it. Now we're like, oh, what's the next one? What's happening next? Like,
Yeah.
you already believe it, you see it, and you may start paying attention to stories on the internet about it.
And
Whereas,
then keep going with your point about the algorithm filter, the information, what happened with these people.
right, so before we'd have all this information, we'd only see a little bit of it. But now with algorithms, if we seek out this little bit of information, then the social media systems only feed us the same information, more of the same. So we're not even filtering out stuff. Social media, or should I say the algorithms of these platforms, only feed us stuff that we're already interested in. We don't see alternative views. Even if they're alternative views we'd never really be interested in anyway, now they don't even exist. So the only information we're choosing is information we're already interested in, and it just reinforces all of our biases. And when we talked about the superiority complex of some of these manipulators, they now are even more superior because all the stuff they're reading and watching supports their views that they know are correct and right. And then how could you even argue with me? And so everybody can develop their own superiority in information that's so isolated from everyone else.
Yeah, I can show you. I immediately have the phone.
Here it is.
And see, you see, the 400,000 people say the this is a blue color, no black. And then, yes.
Did you know that Joe Biden and Donald Trump were roommates in college?
No.
I just made that up, but you know what? Now it's going to be on my feed somewhere, and I'm going to get proof that happened. Who knows, right? What else do we have? Oh, participation trophies. So participation trophies are something that, I guess, 20, 30 years ago, they started doing, where just because you took part in a sport, you get a trophy. That they stopped having winners and losers in baseball games.
Yeah.
So kids were getting, let's go for ice cream. We just played a game. No one won the game, but let's go get ice cream as a team and celebrate. Yay! Kids lost the experience of losing and having to bounce back from a loss to try again. Now, studies show, and we have this whole thing on sports philosophy and should there be whatever you call those participation trophies. Some of the philosophy of sports is this, is when kids are learning skills, when they're learning just to participate, to be part of a team, the participation trophies may be good up to age 7, right? So the kids learn to be included, they learn to be, they learn how to kick a ball, they learn how to swing a bat, they learn how to be on a team. A participation trophy is good. But then beyond that, we need to be able to be on a team where we're fighting to win. We need to be able to have a loss that we bounce back from, and next week we play again. We need to become resilient. We become resilient when we're on a team that wins and loses and tries again. And that's something that we lose with participation trophies. If we're only involved in sports up to the age of 7, 8, 9, and that's all we experience, later on in life when we're on another team and we start to not do well, and we wonder why our presentation isn't awarded with a purchase order, and we just don't understand, and we get very upset, and we think those people just don't understand anything, rather than, hey, we made a mistake, we didn't present it well enough, next time we got to figure out a new way of doing it. Team play, team participation in sports, whether that's elementary, middle, high school, college, those things, team participation can bring a lot of resilience and grit. They call it grit. They say grit is more important than how smart you are and your upbringing in your success. And grit is the ability to be resilient. It means digging in and trying harder, working a different way next time, trying an alternative approach, knowing that sometimes you're going to win and sometimes you're going to lose. Grit keeps you going. And they say, studies show that ability, the ability to get back on the bicycle, the ability to get up and play again, is more important in success than knowledge by itself and other factors, education and other things. So grit, you have two people, they have the same education, but one played, and I'm just making this up right now, but one played on a team that experienced wins and losses, but learned how to be on a team through all that, they have a better chance of being successful because they're ready to get back at it and play the game again, the game of life, the game of business, the game of being in a relationship. Yeah,
because it's working in team.
It's a team. Even it's a small team, a team of two.
Yeah. And then you need to be flexible. You need to have some limit, also bring some limit too. So that's the game.
So this is the other interesting thing I saw, this sports analogy. They talked about boxers, in people who were rowing, but individual. Like they're maybe on a team, but their actual event is one-on-one. So a boxer, somebody who's rowing,
bicycle.
But when you are an individual, like you're racing against others, then there's more of a tendency to develop narcissistic tendencies. Where when you're on a true team, and they talked about being on, say, a gymnast on a team where all the points are scored together, that the teams are scoring points, and then there's a team win. When you're on a true team, like a baseball team, a football team, a soccer team, and the team scores together and they win together or lose together, that builds the resiliency. Whereas if you are that boxer and there's like that self-promotion of, you know, I float like a butterfly, sting like a skunk, you know, something like that, that there's this self-promotion and this certain amount of narcissism that as long as you're winning, you feel great, but as soon as you experience that loss,
devastating.
Oh, it's devastating. It's like these actors and actresses, right? They have an amazing movie in their highlight of career, and they've been nominated for an Emmy, a Grammy, whatever these things are, an Oscar, and then next year their movie comes out and it's a complete flop, and they're devastated because they saw themselves as a star rather than just one of a number of people that were in a team or on a team making a movie.
Yeah, so the capacity to handle disappointing and frustration. This is a ability that I guess this kind of people is difficult to have. So every moment that you have disappointment, you feel the life is end. So and then I use for my own. I always say, always in any kind of situation, can be in work, it can be in when I do audio training. I said always we have a better trainers or auditor and we have awards. So we are in some average, but you cannot have to be the best or the worst. So that is make that you try to do your best, but you know always somebody is better than you or somebody is worse than you. So you sometimes have to be flexible, say, promote, because it's team, you know. What is not lose the objective. The objective is maybe satisfy your customer. So be focused and satisfy your customer versus the competition inside versus the forget what is the objective.
Well, and you think about it is that we're not all marketing, we're not all sales, we're not all engineering, we're not all production. That if we tried to do everything ourselves, we would be good at one or two things and we'd fail on the others. That's why we want to have people who are specialized in different areas. And when we come back, we want to finalize this show on the Emperor Syndrome by talking about adult behaviors that have resulted from the Emperor Syndrome as a child.
Tired of attracting the wrong type of guy, it was time to give something else a try. She got her computer and started to plan, and created a process to find her man. Soon she went on a perfect date, and then she knew it must be fate. In just 90 days, that is all it took. How she found her match? It is in the book.
90 Days Soulmate is brought to you by 90 Days Solutions. We're going to look at typologies of manipulative children and how that carries over into adulthood. Let's look at the sympathetic manipulator who uses charm and victimhood to gain control by disarming others emotionally. An adult Example, in home, a grown daughter constantly calls her parents, crying about her financial condition. She never takes steps to become financially independent, but uses emotional pleas. You just don't understand how hard it is for me. It keeps her parents paying her rent and bills, even though she is employed. So girls, boys, adults do this. And maybe as adults ourselves, right, parents, we feel responsible for where they are in their life. We feel we made them this way, and so we continue playing the role of the supporter. We're manipulated, and we know we're manipulated, but we don't know what to do about it, right? How about the seductive manipulator? Let's talk about in a romantic relationship, love bombing. So in the early stages of dating, the person showers their partner with gifts, with presents, with candy, with kisses. That's called love bombing. As the relationship develops, they start withdrawing some of this affection, and they put demands on their partner if they want that affection back. It's appealing to their emotional needs. If you want to have me continue to love you like only I can love you, then you'll do this. If you really loved me, you'll do this for me. You'll comply with me. So love bombing is a big setup. And again, it's something learned as a child. You love your parent, but when you took away that love, you manipulated them. Now you're doing it in a relationship. How about number 3? The altruistic manipulator. This appears generous at first, but expects unspoken reciprocation of their favors later. For example, in the workplace, a colleague frequently volunteers to help out and stay late and do things for others. But then at some point they say, hey, remember when I stayed late for you? I need you to back me up in this thing that I'm going to present to the boss. Or, I need you to back me up because I'm going to blame this person for the problem I had. The giving that they did, the giving up front was never without strings. So it's altruistic manipulation. The cultured manipulator. The cultured manipulator is somebody who uses their intelligence to manipulate. They are superior in their thinking, knowledge. For instance, in a workplace environment, a manager consistently talks about how they've got their master's degree in engineering, and because they have their 15 years of experience and their degree, that you don't see what I see. You don't understand what I understand, and they shut down any discussion. So they manipulate the discussion based upon how superior they are. So that is something that's learned as a child and carried on over in adulthood. Number 5, the shy manipulator. Passive-aggressively undermines through rumor, silence, or hidden criticism. So let's talk about in the workplace. Rather than confronting a coworker directly, they spread gossip and complain to management anonymously about this coworker. They drop something in the box and complain. They appear agreeable face-to-face, but use back channels to manipulate what's going on, the atmosphere, what's going on in the company. And they try to ruin the other people, maybe their projects and their reputations, not in front of them, but behind their back. And then finally, the dictatorial manipulator controls through angers and threats and even aggression, demands total compliance. You know, the dictator who's pounding on the table in front of you and says, you know, they're going to fire you, they're going to make sure you never get a job again, you're never going to be able to work in this industry, you'll never work in this industry again, ma'am, if you don't follow what I say. And then they can be aggressive to people who aren't as aggressive as them. Something, again, learned in childhood. Tantrums, outbursts, manipulation, using emotion and anger, they get their way. These are techniques that are learned as children,
children,
that become manipulations as adults. A lot of them go back to the, quote, emperor syndrome that we discussed. Anyway, thank you for listening to 90 Day Soulmate with Lizette.
And Jim.
Hopefully we didn't manipulate you too much today.
Have a great week. See you the next week.
Bye-bye.